The council chamber aboard the Varlic Supremacy's dreadnought was lit by a sickly green glow. Around the vast obsidian table, the warlords of 5 systems gathered, tusked jaws clenched in anticipation. All eyes turned toward Admiral Croth, his crimson armor still smeared with the ichor of the last skirmish. A low growl rumbled through his chest as he addressed the others. "Is this truly all the Terrans have left?" Sneered Croth, claws drumming on the table. "One vessel, crippled and adrift? This is the fabled human threat?" There were scoffs and muttered curses from his commanders. The Valak had crushed countless species before. Their empire thrived on war. And yet, tailies of human ships had always come with warnings, their rage, their unpredictability, their technology. But this time, the scouts insisted there was only one battered cruiser, limping along the edge of Varlic space. Croth glanced at the tactical display, the Artemisa. Terran heavy cruiser floated among the ruins of its fleet, hull scarred, weapons apparently silent. Its distress beacons flickered, broadcasting a plea for help into the void. "Let's see if the legends hold up," he growled, waving a claw. "Begin approach." On the bridge of the Artemis, Captain Lila Morgan watched the incoming fleet. With hollow eyes, her crew was exhausted, bloodied survivors from a hopeless defense. Of 3 ships in her strike group, only hers remained, shield generators half functional, reactors damaged. Yet as she looked around at her battered team, she felt a stubborn, cold resolve settle inside. Contact with enemy flagship, reported Lieutenant Hussein, his hands shaking on the controls. "Put them through," she said, voice calm, as the enemy transmission crackled onto the main screen. Admiral Croth's reptilian face filled the display. "Terran Captain, this is the end for you. Surrender, and your crew may yet live." Leela met his gaze. "This ship does not surrender," she replied quietly. Croth's laughter echoed through the coms, harsh and mocking. "Then you and your fragile humans will die in the cold. Prepare yourselves." As the transmission ended, Lila turned to her crew. "We have one advantage they don't know about. Are you all with me?" A chorus of tired voices answered. There was nothing left but to fight. Outside, the Varlic ships spread out, plasma turrets whirring, missile bays opening like hungry maws. From the safety of their flagship, Croth watched as the Artemis was surrounded. "Begin," he ordered. The first wave struck a barrage of energy lances hammered into the Terran cruiser, flaring against its battered shields. Inside, consoles sparked and alarms screamed. "Shields holding at 28%, Hussein shouted. "That's all we've got," but Morgan was ready. "Return fire. Target their sensor arrays. Blind them." Her order was clinical, but her crew acted with desperation, launching counter-barrages. Missiles streaked toward the Varlic explosions, blossoming in the black. For a moment, the enemy staggered. Croth snarled as his tactical feed flickered human countermeasures were scrambling his targeting. Their ship should have been dead already. He pounded a fist onto the console. More power. Overwhelm them. The barrage resumed, yet the Artemis endured just barely. Sparks showered from the ceiling. Fires broke out on Deck 4. Still, Lila. Morgan's voice rang through the ship, keeping her people together. "This isn't over. Not until we say it is." As the Varlic closed in, none saw the encrypted burst Lila sent into the void one final desperate message. Not a distress call, but a trigger. 1,000 kilometers away, something ancient and secret awoke in the darkness. A fail-safe humanity had never admitted to possessing. Silent, patient, waiting for its signal dot, and for the first time, Croth felt a flicker of unease. The Varlic flagship shuddered as the next wave of human countermeasures hit. Croth's lieutenants snapped at one another, arguing over interference in their targeting systems. "Admiral, our sensors are degraded. Their systems, Croth snarled. It's a trick. Humans are full of tricks. Press forward. Meanwhile, the Artemis was battered but unbroken. Lila Morgan moved through the bridge, blood trickling from a gash above her brow. Her crew looked at her with grim trust. We have one shot, she whispered to Hossein. The signal is sent. Now we hold. Minutes dragged by. Explosions rocked. The hull, the reactor's whine was rising painfully high. Lila wiped her brow and keyed the internal comms. All hands. This is the captain. We're not surrendering. We're going to show them what a human ship really means. Hold fast. Her crew answered in silent determination. In the medbay, a medic held a wounded engineer's hand. In the engine room, Chief Ramos patched the reactor with shaking hands, and Shear will dot outside. The Varlak launched boarding pods. Croth wanted prisoners' proof that the Terran Terror was dead. The pods slammed into the Artemis hull, disgorging armored Varlak warriors. The corridors became a maze of flickering lights and gunfire, but the Varlak had miscalculated. This wasn't just a battered ship. It was a fortress of the desperate, the brave, the ingenious. Traps detonated. Bulkheads sealed, cutting off invaders. Crew fought with whatever they had: welders, knives, bare fists. The Varlak had numbers and strength, but the humans had nothing to lose. In the engine bay, Ramos faced a towering Varlak trooper. She hurled a spanner, dodged a plasma blade, and kicked the alien into a sparking generator. Electricity arced, and the Varlak fell. Ramos sagged, laughing bitterly. On the bridge, Lila watched the security feeds. They underestimated us. That's their mistake, she murmured. But the Varlak were relentless. More and more poured in. The Artemis was being overrun. Then, suddenly, all external sensors registered a massive energy surge somewhere beyond. The battlefield, something was coming. On the Varlak flagship, alarms blared. Unidentified contact emerging from subspace. A technician shouted. Kroth stared at the screen. A shape coalesced, vast, angular, bristling with unrecognizable weapons. It dwarfed even the Varlak dreadnought. Its hull was matte black, marked only with the faded emblem of old Earth. The Varlak had never seen this class of human vessel, because no one was supposed to know it existed. Croth's confidence evaporated. Impossible, he muttered. That's a myth, but the ship was real. It had come summoned by the last desperate signal of the Artemis. On the Artemis, Lila smiled. Through blood and tears. Welcome to the fight, she whispered. The Nemesis had arrived. The Nemesis didn't hail or posture. It simply acted. Streams of energy arced from its turrets, slicing through Varlak ships like paper. Each shot was measured, precise, clinical evidence of technology far beyond what the enemy expected. On the Varlak flagship, panic erupted. Ships spun, trying to evade the newcomer. Croth's comms filled with terrified voices, shields down, weapons failing. Before cutting out, Croth struggled to retain control. Target the new ship. All fire on that vessel. But the Nemesis shrugged off their attacks. Missiles detonated harmlessly against its shields. In seconds, 3 Varlak. Destroyers vanished in bursts of plasma. The battlefield was chaos. On the Artemis, battered and burning, hope sparked. The crew watched as the impossible happened. Their enemy, so powerful moments ago, was being torn apart by something born of human desperation. Lila Morgan keyed her comms to the Nemesis. Nemesis, this is Artemis. Captain Morgan requesting. Support. A calm, inhuman voice replied. Support acknowledged. Stand by for linked defense. The Nemesis moved with uncanny precision, positioning itself between the Artemis and the Varlak fleet. Its point defense turrets intercepted incoming fire, creating a shield the enemy couldn't penetrate. For the first time, the humans were not merely surviving, They were winning, but on the Varlik flagship, Kroth's rage overcame his fear. Ram them! If we cannot defeat them, we will destroy them. The flagship accelerated, engines flaring. The Nemesis waited then, at the last second, moved aside with impossible agility. The Varlik flagship's momentum carried it past, straight into the kill zone. The Nemesis fired a single, concentrated beam. Kroth saw it coming, a pillar of light brighter than a star, and then nothing. The flagship vanished in a silent explosion. The remaining Varlik ships fled, breaking formation, their legendary discipline shattered by terror. On the Artemis, battered and bruised, the crew cheered. But Lila Morgan just leaned back in her chair, heart pounding. She knew it wasn't over. Not for her. Not for humanity. The battlefield was silent, scattered with the wreckage of Varlik pride. A Nemesis loomed over the remains, its presence an unspoken warning. This is what happens when you underestimate humanity. The surviving Varlik ships retreated into the void, their comms channels filled with panic. The stories they'd heard of human vengeance, of the Terran war machines now, they would carry these stories back to the heart of their empire. Legends had become reality. On the bridge of the Artemis, relief mingled with grief. Morgan walked among her wounded, speaking quietly, reassuringly. Each survivor knew what they'd just witnessed, a miracle bought with their courage. The Nemesis hailed them again. This time, the voice was different. Human, older, full of pain. Captain Morgan, this is Commander Tagore. We heard your call. Leela smiled weakly. I thought Nemesis was a myth, sir. Tagore's laugh was brittle. It was meant to be. A last line of defense, never to be used. But today, humanity needed it. There was silence, and Morgan spoke. Thank you. On the Nemesis, Tagore looked at the wreckage, memories flooding back of past wars, sacrifices, oaths made and broken. Don't thank me. The galaxy will come for us again, Lila. We must be ready. And in the darkness beyond, a dozen empires watched the battle's outcome. Some with fear, some with greed, and some with a terrible, growing respect. On Varlik Prime, news of the defeat sent shockwaves through the regime. The High Council convened in secret, fearing rebellion, knowing their people had seen something new: humans who did not die, who did not break, whose weapons were things of nightmare. Whispers grew in the shadows. If a single Terran ship did this, what more do they have? Days later, the Nemesis and Artemis docked together in a hidden asteroid port. Repairs began. Stories spread. Lila Morgan stood on the observation deck, looking out at the void. Around her, her battered crew moved like ghosts changed forever by what they'd survived. Tagore joined her. The Varlik won't try this again. Not soon, anyway. Morgan nodded. But they'll remember. And so will everyone else. Tagore's face was grim. That was the point. Sometimes the legend is more important than the victory. Throughout the galaxy, rumors exploded. The Terrans' greatest miscalculation, the day the Varlik attacked a human ship and paid the price. Fear grew in the hearts of those who'd once considered humans prey. Alliances shifted. Plans changed. The calculus of power rewrote itself overnight. On Varlik Prime, parents whispered to their children, "Don't anger the humans. Their ships bring ruin." The arrogance that had fueled their attack became shame, a reminder that they'd faced not prey, but a predator disguised in desperation. But for the humans of the Artemis, the victory was bittersweet. They had lost friends. They'd nearly died, but they had proven something, that humanity was not to be underestimated, that the cost of attacking a human ship was far, far greater than anyone had ever imagined. And so the galaxy would remember the day the Varlik attacked a Terran ship and learned the true price of their greatest miscalculation.